And we're live.
Happy Friday the 13th, everyone, and welcome to episode 4 of Beyond Retro. I am Joe Amato, and I'm here with Tyler Baker and Nathan Kennedy. And guys, this is going to be a perfect day to do the discussion. Obviously, we're going to be talking about Jason Voorhees, one of the Friday the 13th movies. But before we get to that, how's your day been? You guys do anything special for Friday the 13th? Watching movies, do a marathon, anything, or what'd you do?
When I got home from work, I put on the first Friday the 13th, and I probably got maybe just under halfway through it. But I maybe later this evening I might try to finish it or pop in one of the others. I think I can't remember when the last Friday the 13th was, but I remember one about 2 years ago. I put in the first one and then the reboot. I've never done a marathon on Friday the 13th. As much as I've attempted, or back in the days when the USA Network would play marathons of it, I would try to watch one or two, and then I'm like, enough's enough. I just don't have that attention to sit and watch a marathon. That's why I could never go to the movie theater and sit and watch a series of films all day. I just couldn't do it. Like, I feel like after two films, I think I'd have to get up and go.
Yeah, and I didn't even see a marathon. It seemed like, at least on, like you said, whether it's AMC or Sci-Fi or nothing. I think the only thing they're going to be showing today would be, I think they're doing Jason Goes to Hell, Freddy versus Jason, and then Jason X. But I was like, oh, come on. Where's
Who the hell is playing that?
Yeah, that's pretty rough.
That might be Sci-Fi, I think. Maybe. I can't remember, but somebody's starting that tonight, and it might be starting now, but I know it's starting soon. I was like, really? Those are the three you choose? No, not
probably because they're all New Line Cinema films. That's probably why. They probably, I assume that's why, since Paramount owns the first 8 films and then New Line owns the rest of them. That's probably why. It's probably cheaper to pick them up from New Line than they'll play some of their other. We'll play the Nightmare on Elm Street remake for you. Would you like that too?
What about you, Nathan? You watch anything? You get prepared or what?
Yeah, actually, last night, about 12:30, I popped in the movie that's going to be the main discussion for today to give myself a refresher, and then I'll probably watch part 7 when we're done with the podcast.
Oh, yeah, you got to get a 7, and you got to have 7 and 3 or 4, some of those at least on this day. Real quick, I was going to say in the chat room, we have Vinny Romano and Eltenda Fabrizio. Want to say hi to both of you, and thank you for joining us. And if you have anything you want to say during the show, feel free. We'll be able to, answer your questions, or just go ahead and join in with you. So we got a couple people here in the chat room.
Hey, guys.
Yeah, all right. Well, before we start on the final chapter, because that's just going to be a great discussion, how about we just talk about a little bit about Jason in general? What makes him such an amazing character, the whole series, whatever. And Nathan, if you want to start off, go ahead. Why don't you shoot with some Jason, some Friday the 13th?
All right. So my first experience with Mr. Voorhees, sort of similar to Freddy, kind of entered my life about 4 or 5 years old. I remember vividly staying the night at my cousin's house, and I don't know if you guys are familiar, but like the little TV carts that you could put like your TV and your Nintendo and like all the controllers and everything on. My cousin had one of those, and on the door, he just had this sticker, and it was just the mask, and it like terrified me. Like, it was fine when it was daytime and the lights were on, but when we'd go to bed, just a little bit of light would shine on that, and I would have to roll over. Like, it scared me to death.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I remember the first Friday film I watched was Part 8 on USA, probably during one of those marathons.
USA
I know
played a lot of those films, man.
Yeah, and I don't even think it ever had to be Friday the 13th. They just had those on heavy rotation.
They played them on my birthday one year, I remember.
So I remember watching that and just really being like, oh yeah, they're finally giving it to Jason, because I was so afraid of him. It was nice just to see, like, especially that dude on the rooftop, at least for maybe 30 seconds, get some shots in on him.
Yeah, Julius, yeah.
But I mean, yeah, that's he's definitely, I mean, he's not on the Freddy level for me in terms of like having nightmares about him, but he definitely number 2 when I was a kid, of just absolutely, like, anytime I would see him, it was just like, ugh.
Well, I like you got to experience them at such a young age. 5 years old. That's pretty cool. I've come across some people that they were like maybe 14 when they first watched a horror movie or seen anything. Like, wow, really that old? But their parents wouldn't let them watch it. So yeah, I was like just like you, 4 years old, 5 years old, watching horror movies and being scared but loving them at the same time. It's just I guess it made it to where you weren't so afraid then as you grew up. Some people are so skittish. They could look at Friday the 13th now, and maybe if they didn't watch it when they were younger, they're jumping, at any sound effects. So yeah, I don't know. I've done it since, like I said, since I was young, and I don't know about Tyler when you first watched Friday the 13th, but
It was the first horror movie I sat through from beginning to end. Like that was my badge of honor as a child. When we were going to visit my great grandma in Richmond, my mom and granny went out shopping and to get their stuff done. So before they could take us to Toys R Us, they left me and my brother at home to let them go do their shopping. And Ma, as my great grandma, had told us that Friday the 13th was coming on. I think she looked it up in the newspaper, and I was like, "That's one of those horror movies." That's like, I didn't know a whole. And I remember seeing the VHS covers a lot in the video stores, of course, and seeing Jason on the back of 7, like when he's grabbing the male lead in part 7. I can't remember his name, but just seeing various images of Jason, seeing Jason Takes Manhattan and stuff like that. But then to watch the first film, it was during the day, of course. It was like at 12 o'clock in the day.
And how old did you say you were? I'm sorry, how old were you again?
I was in elementary school. I think I was probably in maybe 3rd or 4th grade.
Oh, okay.
And I was engrossed. Me and my brother both. We just sat there. These big, wooden box TVs. The big TVs are like the wood on them and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
Sit there on that old carpet floor of hers and just watch from beginning to end. And of course, it's on TV. It's probably slightly edited back then, but I found it to be extremely engrossing, and I just enjoyed it from beginning to end. I didn't find it scary. And then when it was over, they played part 2. So I watched part of part 2, and then my mom came and got us, and we went to Toys R Us. But I was so proud of watching that, my first horror movie. And then when I go to bed that night, I kept thinking, well, I didn't see Jason, but then I started thinking about him. And the visual I have is how he looks in part 7 and part 8, the slimy, big, hulking King Hodder.
Oh, no kidding.
It kind of got a little nervous, but he was never. I was more scared of Jason as a child, like the troglodyte, deformed little boy that I would see in part 7. Now I look back and I'm like, dear God, why was I so scared of that? But I remember I was more scared of the little boy, deformed Jason, as opposed to the big, hulking mass that's going to whack you with a corkscrew or something like that, So it was elementary school when I first saw it. It was before I saw Nightmare on Elm Street, which was in 5th grade. I do know that.
Oh, okay.
And I never ranked him as someone who truly scared me at all. It was like, to me, he was like the one guy I could watch, no problem. Whereas Freddy, Michael Myers, and Chucky, that was my top 3 of guys that would scare the piss out of me. Jason was cool. He was someone that I felt like I could sit and watch, with no issues of like turning out the lights and watching a Friday the 13th movie.
See, I kind of felt the same way, but he just, I don't know. For me, it was more like the hulking Kane Hodder that scared me to death. But at the same time, he was, at least to me, being the same way, just a very accessible horror character where you're just like, all right, yeah, that wasn't so scary, right?
It was like a good gateway. Like you feel like you're not like if you watch the first Halloween, I mean, to me, that still is creepy as hell movie. But it felt like it was a nice way of easing my way into the world of horror movies. To have a badge of honor. I watched Friday the 13th. That's right. I did it, and I didn't, piss my pants. I didn't, scream and cry and, or whatever. So it was, maybe it was different for other people, but.
Joe, it probably had to have been really cool for you because since you're a little bit older than us, you were kind of like teenager age in the prime of Jason Voorhees, so that must have been pretty awesome for you.
Yeah, no, that's a really good example. You're right. He did become. It's almost like you said. He became kind of like a slight hero. I mean, it's weird. It's like he became a superhero in a way. It's like you were almost rooting for him. As crazy as it sounds, to kill these kids.
Some of them rightfully so.
Yeah, some you definitely wanted, especially like, in part 7, you wanted him to kill Cruz, you wanted, to kill Dr. Cruz. You were waiting for that moment.
Yeah, Bernie from Weekend at Bernie's.
Yeah, you wanted Bernie to die. You wanted him dead. So, but and Melissa, that I mean, well, her
Yeah, the
too.
blonde bitch.
Yeah, exactly. You waited. You just enjoyed when he just took that, axe and bam, right into her head and threw her like a sack of potatoes. But no, my first experience is like I said. I mean, first, I did start off with Halloween, then it went to Friday the 13th, and that's why I'm going old school. In case people wonder what this is, this is my first ever Jason mask that I got when I was a kid. And like I said, almost everybody in the world had this mask. That's all they sold was this white one, and I'm sure that they had eventually some more professional ones. But I mean, heck, a lot of people didn't have that kind of money. You got the little white mask. So this is my old school white mask, and I even did the thing with the eye. I took like a piece of black bag, and this
I
is
was
still.
wondering, are you wearing like an eye patch underneath the mask
Yeah,
there?
it's weird. This is still from way back in the 80s. I took a piece of like black trash bag, put it on the inside of the mask, and then shoved my finger in it just to make a little bit of a hole. And I've kept it here ever since. I have it taped on the inside. So this is all vintage. And any mark I might have got, while trick or treating, I left any bit of dirt. So this is never like it ain't been clean.
Never been clean, never been washed. It's still dirty and grimy and sweaty, just
It's
like it
all over.
was 30 years ago.
It is. It's gritty, boy. I never watched this thing. So, but no, I mean the first Friday the 13th. You're right. It was petrifying scene, especially at the end when it's all peaceful. You think it's all over. That Alice. Everything's taken care of. Everything's good at the end. And then here comes Jason jumping up and pulls her under. That was frightening. It was so scary to
Yeah,
see.
that was kind of the freakiest.
Whew.
That along with the close-ups of Betsy Palmer seeing Killer Mommy, which is a time like she's kind of not traumatizing or like, oh man, this is too much, but it was kind of unsettling. And then to see that Jason pop out of the water was
Yeah, that was just it.
yeah,
That was I hated that. I hated that part when he came up. I mean, that just freaked me out. So grotesque and slimy and pulling her under, and of course, then they ran with it. And then here comes Jason in part two, and then there you go beyond. But Friday the 13th in general for me, it was like more. It's weird, like you said, everybody has their own experiences. For me, there's so many good memories because before my parents got divorced, we would go to the drive-in, and that's where we'd see the Friday the 13th movies.
So jealous.
Yeah, and I'm the youngest of the bunch, so I would sit up front between my mom and dad, and my brother and sisters were in the back seat. And they'd always fall asleep. They get freaked out during the movie, but they usually fell asleep while I would watch this because it's at nighttime. It was usually at 11 o'clock is when they had that showing in the drive-in. So it's like 11 to 12:30 or whatever. It's like what young kid who's like 6, 7 years old could stay up? But I did because I was petrified.
and all the cars next to Joe are like rocking, and you got women's legs are hanging out of the window, dangling as the cars bouncing all over the place and.
We're like, what's going on, Mom, Dad? What's happening over there? Is somebody getting killed? Oh, no, you don't.
People are necking the little Joe model sitting there with the little Jason mask on.
And... shoot. So, like I said, I'd sit between my parents, and while I was petrified, it was also the safest I ever felt because they both had their arm like around me during the movie, and I'm sitting right in the middle between them. So it was like a special moment. Like I said, every time, I could think up to at least maybe part 4 or 5, it was drive-ins, before eventually, they separated, got a divorce. But I remembered so many good times of my, parents, at least, at the drive-ins and going to see, out of all things, Friday the 13th. And then that drive home, that's when I was scared even more than the movie. Because this drive-in at pitch black at nighttime on the way home went down a road that went by this gigantic, like, section of forest. And I kept thinking Jason was going to pop out of this forest. So I would actually just put my head to the side and would look the other way. And I kept saying, are we past it? Are we past it? We passed it. And they finally say, okay, it's gone. Then I could look forward again. So it's weird the kind of memories you have. But yeah, I mean, he did. I mean, he frightened me because he was, in the earlier ones, 2, 3, 4. I mean, he was
especially 3 when he's like a pig man pecking at the window. That was creepy as hell.
Everything. And like I said, in part 2, when she's inside, when Ginny's inside his house, and you can see through the crack of the window, and Jason's starting to run, with his sack and going towards that stuff just did it for me. It was just freakier than heck. But then later he became the character that didn't run. And he was still scary, but then just something changed. Something changed to where, like you said, maybe it's because I was older at the time, but I was rooting for this guy. I wasn't really as much frightened as I was like, man, I want him to kill these people, and how are they going to stop him? And then when people would suddenly, slightly get the best of him, you're thinking, oh my God, they're going to stop Jason. What's going to happen? So, Yeah, he's always just been my favorite character because, like I rank them all differently. I mean, when you think of the main three, Jason, Michael, and Freddy, they're all frightening and unique in their own way, but to some could be more scary. Like Jason, I keep thinking, my God, I would never want to be stuck in a room with this guy. How can you stop this gigantic, unstoppable monster? I mean, you're dead. And then you think about Michael Myers. What's scary about him is, he's the boogeyman. He would pop up from, not like he magically pops up, but his, thing was, he was like within the darkness, hiding. And there was just something different about when he would appear to kill people. He was freaky in a spooky way. And then, of course, Freddy. I mean, that's self-explanatory. I mean, he could turn into anything, into your nightmares, and he can get you in your dreams. Then what if he comes in the real world? It's just he's a.
It comes to where then you kick the shit out of him. That's what happens.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to. Sorry, that just kind of slipped out.
I know what you're saying. But so they all have their different levels, but Jason just became my favorite because he was almost just like I said, he was kind of a superhero. I told Tyler this in the past. I said, as sick as it sounds, my heroes growing up were He-Man and Jason Voorhees. I said, can that make sense to anybody? But I was like, it did to me for particular reasons.
I think Derek Mears, the guy who played him in the reboot, held Jason in that same regard as well.
Oh, he said he was kind of like a hero to him too.
Yeah, because he, which me and Nathan got to meet the guy. I'd like to rub that in Joe's face.
Yeah, you got to always shoot. You got an autographed picture from Kane Hodder too, didn't you? One of the posters or something.
Yeah, my Jason, which I didn't put behind me because I feel like I've used it before on the podcast. So I've got American Werewolf in London behind me. But Kane signed. We met Kane twice, and we met Derek Mears, and both of them were just extremely wonderful guys. But I know Derek did. We talked more about Predator with Derek than we did Jason. But I know I'm pretty sure. I think in the Crystal Lake Memories documentary, he talks about that he kind of sympathized and kind of related to Jason because of the skin disorder that he had, or the lack of hair growth. I think that's what it was. I can't remember. Other hardcore fans are probably gonna know it better, but I think he found the character was somewhat relatable. Someone who hides behind a mask and would like to take out the preppy people for just being a bunch of pompous pricks and just.
I mean, there is also the part where they let him drown too. So
yeah. Yeah, that too. While they're out there, bumping uglies, and this poor kid, he's just trying to have a nice time and ends up drowning. So.
See, that's the thing. Maybe I immediately had a sympathy for the kid. Immediately you knew Jason drowned. He should have been watched, and then it's like you almost already are feeling sorry. Which I told you that's something I used to hate in later movies. It's like, oh man, don't make me feel sorry for the person you're supposed to hate or be afraid of. But Jason, I always kind of I felt bad because his mother lost the only. The person that she loved the most in the entire world, and then he was supposed to have seen his mother, the person that meant the entire world to him, and it's just like it was like you said, you had a sympathy for him. Unlike Michael, you didn't get that. You, of course, years later they gave an origin, and of course, the same thing with Freddy. Years later, they give like a whole thing of poor Freddy, and then his mother was raped by thousands of men.
Which that I felt like they were not trying to bring down the level of.
Until part 6. And part 6 was too much.
Well, like when we're saying, like when you're adding the mythology, it tends to like with Michael Myers. I know Nathan's a fan of part 6, and I think Joe's a fan of part 6. But yes. I was never a fan of explaining the background of Michael Myers. I mean, outside of part 1 and 2, and then when you bring it back in part 4, like he's just determined to kill everybody in his family for no rhyme or reason. Doesn't make much sense. Just give an excuse to kill. I don't like that reason. Just part 1 and part 2, even though he's killing his sister because it's a sister, it doesn't make much sense either. But because I like the movie, it looks good, the music's great, and it's creepy at times. I go along with it. But when you take away the quintessential, this is just pure evil. Just a guy that's lost his mind and decides to torment 3 babies or 3 high school girls. I to explain away some of that stuff, it kills it. Whereas with Freddy, adding to the fact that his mom was raped by 100 maniacs in an asylum over Christmas, that adds a little bit extra flavor. It doesn't take away or explain anything. It just adds extra layers of evil to this character.
Where that should have ended, but like you said, when it came to part 6,
obviously
it went too
4,
much.
5, and 6, and they jumped the shark, several times in that series. But I like in part 10 of Jason, where they decide. they got that one lady who can't act when they're trying to use Jason as like a weapon for the government. And they kill off David Cronenberg. I mean, I remember when Nathan saw that movie, the theater's like, in my mind, I didn't say anything, but like, kind of looks like David Cronenberg for some reason. I was like, sure enough, I found out like after it came out of it, that was David Cronenberg, the director of The Fly and Naked Lunches in Jason X. I was like, it was such a weird thing, but explaining that Jason is like this supernatural, you know, like they're trying to give logic behind this. Like, don't do that, man. I just Chucky is something I feel like you can get away with explaining. So it's the same thing with Pinhead, Candyman, Freddy, but Michael and Jason, because they're silent killers, I kind of feel like they don't need explanation. Because I feel like that takes away from them that they are monsters themselves. You can't. They're like the Terminator. You can't reason with them. You know, they won't stop until you are dead.
You know, and it's like a quick 20-second side rant I'll do because we'll be saving this for obviously the Halloween episode. But you bring up Halloween. I remember when they said they were remaking it and Rob Zombie was going to do it. I said, oh God, please, Rob Zombie, don't do the typical white trash where you're going to have an origin where Michael is going to be from an abusive home and picked on as a kid. And sure as crap, that's what he did. And that's why I think that Halloween, it just immediately off the bat, it's like they're trying to make you pity poor Michael Myers. Like, no, I don't.
I mean, Nathan walked out of the theater, so I was so angry at Rob Zombie that night. Both
Yeah, and part two was even worse for me. His part two was even worse, but we'll say that for another thing. And for fans that loved it, hey, more power to you. But my God, I couldn't stand it. But that's I think all three of our little origins of how we experienced Jason for the first time. But who wants to dive into the final?
I mean, the legacy. Before we get into the final chapter, I was going to say, what do you guys think about the legacy of Friday the 13th? I mean, do you guys? I mean, feel like as a series as a whole, it's a pretty solid series. Do you feel like it doesn't hold well through as many films? I mean, obviously there are duds in every series, but as a series as a whole, I mean, it's got more installments than the Nightmare on Elm Street. I think it's got more than Halloween.
Oh yeah, definitely.
How do you guys feel like as a series as a whole? Like the legacy it leaves behind, do you feel like it's going to continue? I mean, obviously people who grew up in the 80s and probably even early 90s who go back and check some of this stuff out. But do you feel like the legacy is going to continue to live on, that people are going to continue to keep celebrating and revisiting these films because there's so many of them, and are they all as good as your basic slasher film?
I would say that out of the franchises, at least for me anyway, Friday the 13th is stronger than Nightmare and Halloween because they're fun. Like even the goofy ones, I don't know. It's a funner watch for me, if that's even a word. But I just enjoy all of those movies a lot. Like duds or not, like even if they're bad, I can sit through them. Like the Rob Zombie Halloween, I'm probably gonna give those another shot soon, but I imagine that's gonna be really, really, really tough.
Yes.
And then with Nightmare on Elm Street, like I feel once you watch 1 and 3. Everything else in between is just kind of until you get to New Nightmare.
I do love. I love how you ignored part 2 there. That's pretty good.
Yeah, but I mean, and obviously part 2 has got a lot of the silly, stuff in it. But there were some good moments in part 2 that I felt like. Well, I understand why the film is completely ignored, and with good reason. Why New Line decided, you know what, we're going to pretend like that film didn't happen. In part 3, we're going to bring back Nancy and elements from the first film. Like, and I get that, but there are some good moments in part 2. At least back then, Freddy was being taken seriously, regardless if Jessie is a scream queen in the movie, and you kind of don't, you don't really sympathize with him a whole lot because as guys you're watching, you want to, feel like you can relate to this guy, and it's he's not the most masculine man in the movie to be the, but not that there's anything wrong with that, but it's to quote Seinfeld. But it's I felt like Freddy still was portrayed very sinister in that film, regardless of the silly aspects from the parakeet flying around catching on fire and stuff like that, the death dogs. There's some good moments in Nightmare 2. But I still feel like, like Nathan said, if you're going to look at Freddy, you look at 1, 3, and New Nightmare and skip everything else in between. Because even though 2's got good moments, it doesn't add to the mythology. It doesn't add anything to Freddy Other than the idea of him making a human an avatar for him, which is an interesting idea, unfortunately, just not executed very well. But yeah, I agree too. I think overall, I think Friday is the stronger of the series as a whole because there's more solid installments. Like 1 through 4 is quite good. 5, I think I think I've just watched it the one time and I've had no desire to. I've watched clips of it on YouTube and laughed. So I will give it that. I will give 5 a pass because it does have some laughable moments in it, especially at the end when Tommy when it's like a dream, I think, and he stabs the girl at the end. He does like that maniacal laugh at the end. It was kind of funny. Made me laugh.
No, it does. I mean, 5 does have good moments as well. It's like you were saying earlier. Each of them can have good and bad parts, but they might just be enjoyable to a particular person more than the other for just personal reasons. However,
but they've done the best job. Like the Paramount Friday films, which I mean, no, I've seen Jason Goes to Hell once. I rewatched the nude scenes a lot as a kid, and that was it. Jason X. Saw it twice in theaters, saw it on video. I'm like, this movie sucks. I don't know why I bought it, and I kept it just for the documentary. And I finally got it the hell out of my collection. And,
no, you're right. With part 5, though, it's I like they were trying something different. Like at the end of part 4, obviously they tried to give you an idea that Tommy might become Jason and be the killer, and then of course
I like that idea. When I rewatched part 4 last week, and which I've seen many times, but it does make you wonder, to have made Tommy legitimately the next killer, the embodiment of Jason, the hockey mask killer. It would have been interesting.
And that's why the gimmick, like you said, if you've never watched 5, watch it in its entirety to get it. But that's what the thing was, because in the movie, they were trying to make you think at points in part 5 that Tommy could be this killer. Is it Tommy? Because you never see Tommy when Jason is around until what happens at the end. Then you see them both together. And of course, then you find out it's not even Jason, it's an imposter. But then at the end of that, like you said, there's another thing that makes you think Tommy's going to be the killer again at the end of part 5. But part 5, since they didn't have Jason, and it didn't seem like it was as gored up as some of the others, that's when they added in some of the extra nudity with the girl.
Yeah, because the director was a porn director too, man.
Yeah, she was laying out, she was out in the open for so long, and I've never seen that length of a breast shot in any Friday the 13th or a lot of movies back then. As a kid, you're like, oh my God, you're freaking out loving it. So.
There were some great breast shots in this film. Let me tell you, man. Part 3's got some good ones too.
Yeah, like I said, they all do. We all.
I like part 2 also with the girl in the Mickey Mouse shirt with Muffin the dog.
Oh yeah. They all, like I said, all have good breast shots except part 6 has none. That's the only one that didn't have any breasts. But every other one.
And that's the one that you guys think is like the greatest film that's ever been made.
Shut up, and we love 6. So
yeah, 6 is awesome.
Yeah, so, but, okay, well, Nathan, since I rambled like a nut and Tyler did, how about you start off with the final chapter? Why don't you then we can all just dig in back and forth on the final chapter.
All right, so one of the things when I was watching it last night that I appreciate and why I think it is super accessible to anyone that's just wanting to dive right in is it basically just recaps the first 3 movies in like the first 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So you're just caught up. You don't have to worry about anything. And then, I guess the main thing is, do any of you guys want to give Teddy Bear a kiss?
Oh yeah, Ted.
Man, like
Rocky
rewatching
Dennis's best friend from the movie Mask.
Like I feel his entire dialogue in that movie is that line, and then you're a dead F.
Just go ahead and say it. We'll give you one. We'll allow one F on it.
All right, a dead fuck. He says that like I countless times. I'm just like, all right, yeah, we get it. I was back to Tyler's point because we talked about this before. How he was saying that all the girls in this movie are pretty, and he would give it to them.
Oh yeah, over and over again.
No, I would kind of disagree. I think the only one, the Doublemint twins. Nah.
Oh God! What the hell?
Yeah, no.
Is it the clothes? Is it the clothes they're wearing?
No, it wasn't the clothes. It's I think it's just how quick they were to just be like, "Oh, dance with me," and then when the one guy's like, "Oh, I can't do this," then she's just like, "Oh, hey, what about you?" I don't know.
It just shows that they were loose. They wanted some action. That's all. That's all they were there for. They wanted action.
Yeah.
You're gonna fault the Doublemint twins for wanting action here?
Hey, I'm a decent good guy here.
So I'm a decent good guy too. We're talking about within the lore of the mythology of the Friday the 13th films here.
Oh, I probably would have died first.
Let's just say if I was in one of those movies, I'd have been a dead man. Good. I'd go say, all right, how am I gonna die?
Man.
Well, who was the one that you did like? Who was the hot chick in the movie?
I liked Sam.
Okay.
Yes.
She was the easiest on the eyes, and
she was in Weird Science too.
That raft scene.
Yeah.
Oh, that. Wow. Yes.
Excuse me, I'm just gonna daydream.
Yeah. That was.
Go back to about 15 hours ago.
Oh boy, she got a beautiful body too, man.
But no, just everything, the pacing of it is really good. The fact that you have a kid character in the movie, which if you're watching it as a kid like we did, it's instantly relatable.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you just, oh man, he's got like all these toys. He likes to make all these masks and he's into all this cool stuff. And for him to just like see boobies from his bedroom and people skinny dipping, like
how relatable.
What is like they decided to portray him as not the obnoxious kid who does stupid stuff. Like he was a smart kid. He liked, which I guess that's obviously he had to be smart because he's creating all these movie effects and makeups and masks and stuff like. Plays video games, knows how to fix the car or works on the car, and when there's electrical problems, they send Tommy out to go fix it. So he's portrayed as a competent kid, not a whiny kid who laughs goofy or is just saying silly stuff to like say, "Look at me, look at me." It was a I'm sure that was Joe Zito or the scripts I did to make him a more of a likable child actor, because a child in a horror movie can make or break a good horror movie, because directors don't know how to have kids portray in movies for the most part.
Yeah, and for everybody that's listening, it was pretty much the consensus of all three of us that Part 4, it can be pretty much considered like a good amount of favorite between all three of us. Like it's the one that just hits all of us. Unlike, I might like 7 a whole lot, but it might not really float Tyler's boat, and Nathan likes 6, and again Tyler might not like it. This was just a consensus of it's just a perfect mix of everything. And like you said, when they introduced a kid into it, we weren't seeing a little boy in Part 2, and we weren't seeing that in Part 3, but in Part 4 here comes a kid, and that's somebody around your age. And like you said, he likes video games, he likes horror stuff and masks. He has Ram Man on his bookshelf. He's got a He-Man figure. And what else does he do? He likes peeping, trying to see when girls are naked, like when he's looking out of his room, and then he lays down. You could almost picture when you were a kid and you'd see like a movie and you might see boobs and you'd hear your parents come to the door, you turn off TV and you lay down. It was so damn relatable. And then
I'm trying to find a tape to record it. That's what I'm trying to do.
See, that's what I mean. You can relate. And like when he goes to the lake and he's chasing his dog, and you see the girls in the lake and they're nude and he's sitting there staring. It's like you could just definitely relate to, that's me. I'm that boy.
Plus, when I saw it, I'm seeing Corey Feldman, because I'd seen the Goonies, and I was just like, I associate Corey with the 80s, and when I eventually saw Friday 4, I'm like, that's Corey Feldman. Corey Feldman's cool. I like Corey Feldman. So it was a good sell for me.
Yeah, and what's perfect about Corey Feldman, he's not like, how, like you said, a lot of certain child actors or other people are typecast for a certain role in a certain movie. He was just the 80s kid. It's like you said, he was in everything. So I never thought of him as just Mouth. I never thought of him as just him or just anybody from the other movies. It's just like you said, it's Corey Feldman, but he took that role and he did a great job. I mean, that's Tommy. That's just some of my rambling. I'll let you go back, Nathan. But
his role in that film kind of predated everything else, correct? Yeah. Wasn't that? That was
that was before Goonies.
Yeah,
which is why he couldn't do Part 5.
Oh yeah, that's right. You kind of wonder like how different Part 5 could have been had he been able to come back.
I think it'd have been a completely different movie. I mean, maybe we would have seen Corey Feldman in the kind of the kind of ranch for troubled teens.
It would have had been a whole different feel, because he would have definitely been younger than all them other kids if he would have been the role of well, just him how he was supposed to be. It would have been different. But I think didn't they say that he also when he shot that scene, he had a horrible cold and it was in his backyard. That
Yeah,
scene
it was
they
in his
shot.
backyard. Yeah.
How great is that? So, well, you got it in some form, but you're right. I mean, I didn't know. Again, when I was a kid, I couldn't remember when I'm watching like the thank you, like you said, what did Goonies come first or did this come first? I mean, I was just
I did though. I knew all that, Joe.
yeah. So
Of
that
course you did.
and Stand
Yeah.
by Me, I know that was later, but it's just you're just liking it in general. It's just you related to the kids. So bringing a kid into that movie gave such a different feel. And what's weird is it's also kind of one of the scariest ones that you could kind of think of leading up to it because it was for me more terrifying than part 2 and 3 because maybe I'm thinking my god what if I was in this kid situation. It made it relatable because now you could finally relate to a particular character. Unlike the other ones, you're just a young kid and you're watching these older teenagers. You can't really relate. But that was the
I
first
don't. I
time.
don't. I never related to the kids though in these movies or any of the action movies. I'm always wanting to be the lead action hero, or the guy that's in charge, or like when I watched the Goonies, I related to Mikey because he was the leader of the group. That's who I wanted, even
Well,
though
that's what I
Mouth and
mean.
Data and Chunk were cool. But it was not because he was a kid; it's because he was the leader of the Goonies. So when I'm watching, these movies, I'm not relate. I'm liking the fact that it's Corey Feldman. He's in the movies and monsters and stuff like that. But I'm not looking to him as like how it would be for me in that situation.
It
Like
was the
I'm
first
just
time for me. For me, it was because I could never, like you said, I never related to any other of the people in any of the other Friday the 13th movies till that time. But when 4 came, I could relate. I was basically his same age, and I was
you
the
didn't
same.
relate to Shelley.
No, I didn't relate to Shelley, and no,
Not
no,
being able to get the chicks, man, I could relate to that back then, man.
no. I
Yeah,
definitely.
where you'd ask a girl out, and she goes, "I like you, but just as a friend, yeah, it's okay. Sure, we'll talk, bitch."
Yes,
You know,
you're right. But no, this one I could. I mean, not only because of the age, but playing the video games, having kind of collectibles, horror stuff. I mean, that was me. And Zaxxon, it's funny you say that. That was one of my favorite games. I was like, out of all games he's playing Zaxxon. And he was playing it on a computer type system. I remember playing it on ColecoVision. I love Zaxxon. So that was my first relatable character where I could feel like I was this person, was Tommy in part 4. But go ahead, Nathan.
Oh, just I guess one thing going back to the pacing, just the kills. They don't waste any time. There's not like just long drawn out stretches of dialogue and you're just waiting for it and waiting for it. It's like, no, here's a kill. 10 minutes later, oh, there's no. It just like keeps going, and I guess that's why I rank that higher and put the first two movies a little bit lower. Like I understand they're trying to establish like the character and the lore and kind of give it that feel. But for me, I'm just like, just kill, kill, kill. Let's get it going.
now, let me ask you this, because of the kills though. I find this for me personally to have like the best cast of likable characters. Like it's hard to find it. I mean, even though you're talking about Ted, it's like yes, one trick pony, we get it. You like to say dead fuck and and all that stuff. But I found the entire cast very likable. Like there wasn't a group in every from the Jarvis family to the teens coming to stay at the house. To Rob, the guy looking for his sister, I found them all to be likable characters. Like you weren't waiting for one of them to get killed off. Like I just found them to be, except the virgin in the movie. She's kind of flaky. She's just kind of like, kind of like she kind of zones out and like looks at stuff, and you're like, oh wow. Mm.
She was still hot though, and you still wanted to see.
Well, of course, of course she was hot, but just like when she's going back to the car to kind of give you like this. Idea that she may get killed, going back to the car, she's kind of like, oh, what? Just looks, or when she's ready to give it up to Pop Collar Preppy, and she's like, I'm gonna go upstairs. Oh, do you mind sleeping on the bottom bed? You're like, you want to sleep upstairs? And he goes, no.
Well, that's she's in it. That's the first time.
She's acting like Charles Grodin. She's like, no.
But it's the first time she doesn't know how to really say it.
I know that, but it's her reaction, which I think it's great. Don't get me wrong. I was just laughing like, gosh, she's such a flake in this movie. She just kind of like, when she's looking at, Miss Voorhees' grave, she's like, scary. It's just like, what are you doing, man? I'm like thinking about Joe Zeta when he's behind the camera. Act like a dumbass, okay? Action. And she's like, oh, green leaves and trees.
No, but
go back and watch it. I can't.
yeah, I know what you're saying.
But I'd go out with her in a heartbeat. She was a not. Oh, it's funny too when the pop collar preppy, when he's like starts singing in the shower, says, I'm in heaven, because he just got laid in the shower. She's like, I'm in love, and he goes, what? It's just, he's instantly thinking like, oh dear God, she's done with the break. She's in love with me. What do I do now? Forster Jason shows up and he doesn't have any more responsibilities after that. But I thought that was so funny that she says she's in love with him. The minute she gets out of the shower, and he goes, huh?
I refer to his character as like dollar store Jared Leto, because he looks like a dopey Jared Leto to me.
I'll take him over Jared Leto.
Yeah.
Because the Joker.
No, I would agree with the cast. Like, I kind of gave him a little bit of crap about sort of just he's got 2 lines, but overall, like when you look at the other films, they're likable.
Yeah.
You can't say that for most of the other films. They're usually really, really annoying and grating.
Yeah, they may have got like part 3, Chris's boyfriend in the movie. I kind of thought he was a bit of a, airhead, the farm boy. I never really kind of liked him, but I liked the rest of the cast essentially. Yeah, I mean, part 1, like Ted, the obnoxious like goof off, like someone please slit his throat already. God, he's just so annoying. But part 4, I mean, from Trish and Mrs. Jarvis and Tommy and Rob, and of course Crispin Glover.
Yeah, I love Jimbo.
I can't believe we've gone this far and had not mentioned Crispin Glover's performance.
I was waiting. I was like holding. I was waiting for Jimbo the whole time. I mean, his iconic dance he did, which remember that was all improvised too. And how many takes he did. I mean, who didn't try to do that style? My God.
Especially the song. I think the song that kind of that not tonight, or I've tried to emulate that song to myself when I'm by myself. Like, what the hell are they singing about? But it's like that helps sell that goofy ass dance that he does. So
I love it. I mean, it's so memorable. Real quick, I wanted to say hi to Grim Dagon in the chat room. He wanted to say he met Judy, or Sam, if you will, a few years ago. And he said,
"Oh man,"
he said she's still hot and super nice. So you're a lucky man, Grim. I wish I could meet her.
Yeah. Oh gosh, yes.
Yeah. So that's pretty cool.
You see her you see in Crystal Lake Memories, man. She's still rocking, man.
Yeah, a lot. Like you said, a lot of the girls, still. I mean, definitely
they've aged well.
Yeah, I mean they have. But no, you're right. When you think of Jimbo, I mean, first, I mean the poor guy. I mean he's having no luck. You see
now seeing that as a teenager, I found him to be quite a relatable character, like someone who desperately, he wants to make things right with the girl, and then just comes out and says, "God, I'm horny." Like, I can relate there, pal. And then he gets one of the Doublemint twins.
Right, then he has that friend that's picking on him the whole time.
Yeah.
About he ain't gonna get none. How he ain't gonna have any luck. And bam, one of the girls that Teddy's wanting, bam, he was like, "Here, why don't you run this through your old computer, Ted?" And he has the panties. He's like, "There you go, Jimbo." I mean, it was just so cool.
Jim was like, "Oh, it was awesome."
It was. And then the poor guy experiences, for me, the coolest death in the whole movie. He's looking for the damn corkscrew, and he gets the double wham. He gets corkscrew to the hand, and boom, that meat cleaver right to the face. I was like, what a cool 1-2 combo. It's like, poor guy, but it was cool.
And I love how, Nathan, did you notice this when you watched it, like, when he gets the meat cleaver to the face, like, his head kind of shakes and jiggles, like, really quick?
Yeah, he's just like,
I watched, there's that clip was on YouTube, just go back and just rewatch that. Where the hell's, where's the corkscrew? Whack, and then wham, and he just like jiggles right there. Oh, it's so funny.
And how was it done? Wasn't it like in reverse mode is how it actually was? It was like a cleaver then was pulled away. Did they show how they did the making of that slash to the face? If I'm not mistaken, I thought I seen that.
They may have. I can't remember right off the top of my head.
Yeah, so that's why it might be a little weird. Like at first he's supposed to have it like this, and then it comes out, but then they run it this way, and it looks like he gets hit, and like you said, there's a slight shake. But
it's just funny though.
Yeah.
But you hate it because, he's a likable character. I mean, everybody. When Ted gets it in the back of the head when he's just getting high and watching old pornos, or old snuff films, I mean, you feel bad for all these guys. I don't want to see the flaky virgin get an axe to the chest. I don't want to see Pop Collar get crushed in the shower after he just got some, man. It's a cast you don't want to see die. They're all likable characters. Sam, she's all hot and pissed at her boyfriend who does a bad impression of Curly from the Three Stooges is essentially cheating on her right in front of her. Yeah. He did deserve to die for that one.
Yeah, that's a difference, I think, with some of the earlier Friday the 13th movies and maybe just some horror movies in general. usually the characters, at least kids, mind you, teenagers, they weren't characters that you hated. You liked them all in one different way for some reason or another, and you hated seeing them get killed. But then later on through the series, you're right, they always had to introduce certain characters that were fricks, punks, people you were like, man, I hope Jason kills them. But I honestly couldn't say that for some of the earlier movies. It's like, you felt bad for all of them, and some you felt sorry for more than others. Especially, like you said, Jimbo and poor Shelley. We never really seen his death, but you see when he walks in, he has his throat slit. I would have really felt bad seeing poor Shelley actually receive.
But you knew it was coming when he's especially when he grabs what's her name underneath the dock in a part 3.
Vera.
Vera, when he grabs Vera and he ends up laughing with the harpoon gun, and he's like, dude, all right, come on, man. Dude, you just felt like, we know you got to think for this girl. You want her to like you, but you know what? You got to deserve to get your ass kicked, for scaring a pretty girl like that. That's not going to get her in bed with you. You're not going to go on a date with her for that. That kind of mentality felt like kind of hard to sympathize with that, even though it was, I just wanted you to like me, so I decided to scare the hell out of you.
He tried. He was
but he is the most likable character in part 3. Don't get me wrong, though. He is. Like I think when I was watching this film, I think when I showed Nathan part 3, I was like, it's Shelley. It's all about Shelley in part 3. And I think it turned out, wasn't Shelley your favorite character after I showed you part 3 back in high school?
Yeah, because I mean, I don't know. I guess you said you couldn't relate to him. I guess I could, because I was that guy that was always trying to get a laugh out of some people. And there were a few times that people didn't appreciate trying to make them laugh in certain ways.
Yeah, like I said, he ain't a bad guy. He's just trying to do it. He's just trying to get a laugh.
But of all the guys in part 3, Shelley's the most likable. Like I would defend Shelley to the death as opposed to the other goofballs.
Yeah, like you were rooting for him when he ran over the bikes of all the bikers.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Plus, I mean, he kind of earns the status anyway because of him. That's how we got the Hockey Man.
He's been given such an iconic place in the history. Excuse me, the history of Friday the 13th, being the guy responsible for that. So he's if there was a Hall of Fame for Friday the 13th, Shelley gets a spot in the Hall of Fame. Just for his role in part 3, and plus being the guy that gave Jason the mask. That's something we ought to do sometime. Is do a Hall of Fame for these series of films. Like who would, I mean, aside from the killer, characters throughout the series who would deserve to be in the Hall of Fame because they were so likable. Shelley would be one of them.
Yeah, the reason I'd even put it like that is because I think if part 3 was to ever receive a other action figure besides Jason Voorhees, and it'd be a character from the movie, I think Shelley'd be great. He would come with his clear mask that he had, remember, right at the beginning. Yeah. And then he could have the hockey mask. He could just have all his little accessories and gadgets, have his little bag of, stuff. His whole world's in there. I think it'd be a cool thing. So, yeah, Shelley, he's definitely the most memorable.
And Rob, the guy looking for his sister from the part 2, I liked his character a lot. It was cool to have a very competent male lead, even though he gets killed off. But he was like a character that you took serious. Like he's not telling everybody what he's doing up there. And then you come to find he's up there to hunt Jason and try and kill him. And,
did you say part 2 or did you mean part 4? I thought you said 2.
No, his sister was killed in part 2.
Oh, yes, you're right. Yeah. And you're right. I mean, the only thing that drove me nuts in part 4 about Rob, and my mom hated this. Everybody I know hated the part, is when he's getting killed in the basement.
He's killing me.
He's killing me. He's killing me. I was like, who's going to say, don't stop this. Who is going to say he's killing me? He's killing me. It's like, no, you're not going to be saying that. You're going to be screaming or trying to fight, but you're going to die. But you're not going to announce to the world what's going on. It's pretty self-explanatory what's going on with you, Rob. So
and for her oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say for her to run up the steps and you just kind of hear that in the background and then it sort of stops and she turns around. She's like, well, maybe it's okay. And she goes back down. I'm like, what are you doing? What are you doing?
They do those parts just so we could scream at the TV or the movie because we've all done it. Like, why are you running down the stairs? It's like, you've heard what happened. You know what's going on. But no, okay, now I'm going to go back down. It's like, you're braver than I am. Friday the 13th is what made me afraid. It's weird. It's like memories are coming back now. That's what made me afraid to go down in the basement at my house where I grew up at. Because that movie first petrified me of that moment. And also my brother then used to scare me sometimes if we had to go down the basement to get the laundry or something and bring it up for it to be folded. And then he'd turn off the lights. He loved flicking the lights off and running upstairs before me and then shutting the door. And I'm in this pitch black then in the basement and I'm banging on the door and oh God, what a horrible memory. I'm glad you guys brought that back up. So I haven't thought of that in years.
I did the same thing to my younger brother too, similar, leaving in the backyard for the dogs and stuff like that. So
exactly, you're a good big brother, and see, and I can relate with your younger brother of getting picked on like that. So I can see that. It's a time I have a little disdain for Tyler right now because I'm like.
Wait, let me tell you this. My brother pulled a kitchen knife on me one time as a kid because he kept trying to call my mom and get me in trouble. And I kept grabbing the phone and hanging it up on him. He eventually went to the kitchen drawer and pulled out a knife and came after me.
Just tired of your shit, man. Yeah, I got tired of you leaving them in the basement and out in the yard.
No. This is when we were a bit older, and Derek would want a roughhouse, and of course, it's in the summertime. We're at home, no school, we're just home watching movies and stuff. And he wants to wrestle. He gets hurt. Then he wants to call mom and tell on me that I hurt him. So I grabbed the phone and said no, and I run upstairs and kept doing it. He finally went and got a knife and came after me with the knife. I didn't stop to forget if my little brother's actually going to stab me with this knife here. But anyway, he chased me upstairs. I ran in and locked my door, and he's, taking with the knife. He's digging at the door, and he's sitting slamming against the door with his shoulder, and I'm barricaded in my room.
Real quick, I got a question. Here's my Dr. Phil question. Now, was this before or after leaving him for the dogs, Tyler?
This was years later.
Years later. Well, then it was well deserved. Then that's what you did. It was the revenge.
Coming back on you.
And I was also leaving him for bait for Freddy Krueger, which is why I always made sure he slipped near the stairs.
Exactly. We can't pity you in this situation. You're the villain in this story. So.
And the lock on that door never worked again after that day. Like you had to pull the knob up to get it to lock because Derek did so much. He remembers it too. And we all just laugh about it. We tell her mom about it, and she actually laughs about it too because she's at work. She can't do anything about it. Derek's at home, turning into Chucky, chasing me up the stairs, and
let him know I applaud him for that. This is.
I'll tell him. He'll be like, "What? You guys told that on the podcast? What are you talking about, man?"
It's a good story. No, I like that. But
it makes me glad that I'm an only child.
Oh, you are.
Yeah.
But Nathan's better around my brother. My brother's a very cool guy. He's a father and everything. So he's just a. And my brother was really big. I mean, he was watching these horror movies at the same time I was. He was really big into Evil Dead and all this stuff. So he was buying the movie Maniacs. And he was into Jason just like I was. We're sitting there watching Part 2 and Part 3 together. So it was just a temporary childhood, brotherly love.
Sure, there you go. I guess. But no, I was going to say back to the final chapter. Beyond all these amazing killings and everything, then we get coming towards the end, and where Tommy he sees those clippings of Jason Voorhees as he's younger, and he sees that he has his hair scraggled around, looks bald headed. And what does Tommy do? Tommy shaves his face. I mean, he knows about effects and looking frightening. With the masks he makes. And while his sister is fighting off Jason downstairs, you hear the little pitter patter of feet, and you hear him yelling for Jason, and Jason stops and he turns and looks around, and in back of him is standing Tommy, looking like Jason did as a boy. That moment was so weird and creepy to me as a kid. How Jason stopped and he kept saying, "Do you remember? You remember Jason? Don't you remember?" And Jason's walking up, closer and closer, and it's like he's confused. Almost like how in Part 2, he thinks his mother's still alive when it wasn't. When you had Ginny acting like his mother, now he's seeing a vision of like, what's happening? Is this me? Is this a boy like me? It's like he's relating about being that kid again, which gives the time for his sister to get up and then do the whack
to the face.
Yep, and you see one of the most ugly, grotesque, because Jason kept changing. Every movie, you kept seeing a different version of that face, and that was hideous. And she just drops the machete out of fear. He's walking towards her, and you get it to Tommy. And Tommy, boy, he lays him in the face, and then he falls on the machete, and you hear that crunch.
Yeah, the artichoke splitting. That was the idea behind that. Yeah,
I love the sound, the look. And then he hugs his sister, but he sees that little twitch on the finger when Jason's on the ground, and Tommy unleashes. He's saying, "Die, die!" She's saying, "Tommy," and oh my God, like the kid is the hero. The kid is the one that basically chopped Jason to pieces. Not one of these older teenagers or even adults. A kid my age just took out Jason. That was such a cool moment. He just wasn't stopping. It's like I remember the first time I seen it. I mean, it just freaked me out seeing him go to town. And it's the one time I guess you cheered because you're like, wow, look at what this kid's doing. It's something you again. What would you do if you were stuck and you seen Jason? You'd hope that's something you do, or at least had the guts to do.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't mess around at all. Like, no hesitation, period. And like, I cringed last night when I watched it at the scene when he's starting to shave his head because there's still like a decent amount of hair there too, and he's just got that regular razor. I'm just like, oh, like that's got to be pretty painful. And going back to that effect when he falls on the machete, so well done.
Yeah, that looked, and then you see Jason's like face is still moving when the machete is slightly going up deeper, and it was just all that looked really good. But still, to me, Jason's creepiest face goes back to part 3. Like it's a grotesque face, but part 3's Jason, I think, is the creepiest underneath that mask.
It's almost humanesque but grotesque and like like you said, deformed in that crazy smile he does at the end when he scratches it. He's because he's given expression, and then as it went later and later, you weren't really seeing that type of expression. The only time you seen him get pissed, I love the first time you see him get pissed was in part 7. Remember when Tina hanged him, by his throat, he blows up, goes through the ground, and when she grabs him down in the basement, and he sits there and he grabs that thing and he yanks it off his neck and he turns his head sideways and you see his mouth moving. I was like, oh my God, Jason is pissed. That's the first official time you'd ever see Jason pissed was in 7. Just 4 did it all. From having him as a kid, having all the gratuitous nudity, having the awesome, kill scenes, the part where Jason has to choose between who's he going to chase. Is he going to go after Tommy or go after Trish? And you see when he goes after Trish and when they're upstairs. And that's when I used to always tell everybody, I was like, Jason's somebody that doesn't kill kids. He goes for like the older teenagers or adults, but he wouldn't kill a kid. And, that's why I think part 6 was something I kind of liked because that's the first time you've seen finally kids at the camp, young kids, at the camp. And of course, he killed none of them. And we'll eventually, I'm sure, talking about that part 6 and what he does, how he scared that one girl looking at her when she was saying her prayers and kept getting close. Oh, God, I hated that part. Oh, did I hate that part. But go on, Nathan. You got some more. Like I said, I want to keep rambling about all my moments. But.
No, it's cool that he doesn't kill kids, but I guess when you look at it from a movie making perspective, they're like, well, we can't have him killing kids. That would just be too much.
Yeah, they could talk like they talk about Freddy, molesting and killing children, but you're not going to show it,
Yeah.
And frankly, I think it's a little unsettling even from a horror movie perspective. It's one thing to see kids get eaten like in Jaws and the movie Grizzly and stuff like that, but it's or in It, children being killed, but Jason, what he does, you want to see him take a corkscrew to some little boy's head, and like, no, that's in poor taste, That's.
But it also benefits with like his character. He probably just doesn't want to kill them either because, like, he died technically when he was a kid, like he drowned. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the deeper meaning behind it.
Yeah, you're probably right. There's probably some sort of like sympathetic, feeling towards other children. But then again, too, I don't want to know that because I don't like to know. Because I almost feel like in part 4, like he's caught off guard with the way Tommy comes downstairs and shaved his head. In part 2, when Jenny's wearing his mom's sweater, he's taken aback, like he's not quite sure. Like I like knowing you never know what's going to make him stop. What's going to make Jason stop and think. And I kind of like that you're really not quite sure. What can get this machine to kind of stop? Okay, I'll let me think about what I'm looking at here for a moment before I continue on here.
Right, and for the character again, when he's not killing the kids, I think that's what made it kind of in a way acceptable for me when I'm watching as a young kid, thinking I shouldn't fear him because I used to make that up in my head. I used to say Jason won't kill me because I'm a kid. For when you would have thoughts of like going to bed, oh God, Jason's gonna get me. You try to use any rationale or excuse you can to accept why you're not scared of this character, even though yes, you're still terrified most of the time for most of these characters. Freddy was, Freddy. When you speak of him, that was the first time I questioned things because when you hear he's a child killer, even though you're not seeing him kill the young kids and teenagers, you're still hearing about he was a child killer. So you're thinking, okay, is he killing people my age too? That made me fear Freddy in that aspect because I thought he'll get you. He doesn't care how old you are. But Jason, and then to the other extent, Michael Myers, it was different for those two characters. There are characters that I felt like just killed, older, teenagers and adults. But I was safe from them. Whatever you could use, any excuse to not be afraid of these characters.
I mean, to me, Freddy was. Hell, I lost my train of thought here.
No, that's all right. That's all right. But hey, did you guys did notice? I mean, I'm sure it's been shown everywhere, but like I said, I always did like that Ram Man figure was on the shelf.
Yeah.
Anytime you could see any mention of Masters of the Universe or something you could relate to, like, hey, like you said in part 6 when the kids were in the Mechaneck shirt. Anytime you can see some product placement of something you love, that's cool. So yeah, I like that. That scene though, when they're trying to push the bookshelf and then Jason, is busts through and then when he reaches through and they grab that that actually always looked like unlike a lot of those special effects in movies where you could tell it's a fake prop, this prop doesn't look like it would have an effect, that really looked like it, how she was maneuvering that monitor, TV, whatever you want to call it, and shoved it on his head. It really looked like it had some weight. They did a great job with that pop on his head, that smoking and sparks. I mean, I don't know, was it ever mentioned in any kind of documentaries of what they actually had in there? Because she did a damn good job making it look like it was heavy.
I don't recall that being in the Crystal Lake Memories documentary, but you have the book, so.
Oh, thank you. All right, yeah, I should go.
I just exposed Joe live on the internet here. Mister.
I
know everything about Friday the 13th.
No, I admit, maybe I didn't read every bit of it, but I do have that book.
What a hack! You came to me talking. You were giving me all these stories of, oh man, but in the book they said this, the book they said that.
Well,
you probably just read the forward and the index, and that was it.
No, that's probably, it's like, look, I read it from beginning to end. Like, did I lie? But I half the time with some of these collector books, I never wanted to finger through them too much because I didn't want to wreck them. But I do have that upstairs, and I was actually going to bring that down for this episode and say, show this. I was actually going to have that. It's weird you say it.
Well, showing it to us does nothing for us unless you know what's in the book. Because, I can do this.
Here we go.
I've got this. I hadn't watched it yet, but it's good.
You prick. Well, I remember when I first got it, the main reason I want to see it, I thought it was going to have a lot of behind the scenes pictures and stuff, and I think that's where they showed a Jason in his different look. When oh Jesus, I did not just go blank. Oh my God, help me out! The guy who did Stan Winston's version of Jason. That's what they showed in that book. Because remember, the version that we had on Master of the Movie, that was completely different. And I always wondered why. I was like, why didn't they stick with that Stan Winston one? Because that was pretty damn creepy itself. That was ugly. I still wish there would be footage of that stuff in part 3, that dream sequence where I think he beheads Chris or something. And I don't think there's ever footage, just picture stills. You guys seen these picture stills, right? Yeah.
Well, speaking of Unmasked, be sure to pick up Kane Hodder's book, Unmasked, here. This version here was autographed by the man himself.
Oh, God, you got books, you got posters. See, I live in what I call the city of the dead. Nobody comes here to where I live, so I've never met any of these people.
Well, you see, it's not like, who am I kidding? Kane Hodder did come to Blacksburg, which is 15 minutes away from me and Nathan here, for free.
Of course.
I like to remind that, too. It was great. It was amazing. But what was so sad about that, even when me and Nathan went to go meet him, was it had all these college students there doing like a report on what he was there to talk about, working in films. They all got up and left. I think it was maybe less than 10 people there that were there to get his autograph.
That was cool because we got like a lot of time with him.
Yeah,
we were up there a good 15 minutes talking to him and him putting us in headlocks and telling us how much Freddy vs. Jason sucked.
Did he actually put you in headlocks?
Oh yeah. We got pictures of it. And when he puts you in a headlock, he's selling it. He's not pretending. You're feeling what it was like to be choked by Jason, and believe I could still feel the pressure he put on my neck when he came in, and it was, oh dear God, that's what it would have been like to have been on screen with Kane Hodder in one of the Friday films. If you're going to be killed by Kane Hodder, you're going to feel the pressure. I mean, it was
God, you guys
It
are
was
lucky.
great.
That's amazing.
Oh,
I wish
so
I could
and
say.
he was a sweetheart of a guy. Super, super nice. Very nice.
Dang. Well, maybe someday. Hopefully, I'll be able to meet him too and be lucky like
Just,
you guys were.
just fly out to us, Joe, and we'll go to a
Yeah.
convention together.
Yeah,
Well, I
I'm
was
gonna
gonna say,
have.
how far are you from North Carolina, Joe?
Um, Not quite sure, but enough to where I'd have to go to Al Bundy's bank where he has to go to EF Nutton because I don't have the money to be doing any traveling. But someday, if I get money, I could probably try to do
I'll
that.
say because we found out yesterday that Robert England's coming to Charlotte in
Oh, is he?
February.
And now, of course, I know you guys will be there. You'll be taking all your
Yep.
merchandise to get signed, and so there are more
Which
good luck.
I'm kind of over the whole convention thing, but Robert England is somebody that I have to come face to face with my childhood, evil, my adversary from my childhood. So I have to at least go to Charlotte and get him to autograph my Dream Warriors 3 poster.
Awesome. Well, Nathan, before we wrap it up, you got any more thoughts, final thoughts about the movie, the final chapter?
No, just the Doublemint twins still aren't doing anything for me. I've been thinking about it this whole time because Tyler's been giving me shit about it.
I don't know how. I don't.
There's just something about them. I don't know. Like, I mean, maybe like the teenage horn dog in me would have been like, oh yeah. But looking back at it now, I'm just like, man, she would just dump you in a heartbeat, and then the other one would probably just like switch places with her.
Okay, so it's
or
more about their personalities as opposed to like looking at them. Because Sam
Yeah.
was someone who was scorned by her boyfriend for the Doublemint twins and got killed.
Yeah. I just
Okay.
don't trust them. You know, they look like they would just be out for your money. You know, like they would kill you for the insurance money or
Well,
something.
they'd be
I
good
don't
for
know.
that one. They'd be good for that weekend. They'd be good for the weekend, like you said. Maybe not for life, but definitely a fun weekend.
Well, yeah, for a weekend fling, both the Doublemint twins. I mean, but Sam seemed like a good girl to have, like it's your girlfriend. Plus, she likes to brag about doing it with you, so just like she does, and she does to the flaky virgin.
I want to give you an actual other memory. It's funny when you're talking about Sam. With what was the part? The part where she went. Oh, I'm sorry, I might have got the name messed up. Wait, yeah, that was Sam. Yeah, the one who went out into the lake swimming towards the wreck. Okay, yeah, got almost screwed up. All right. Well, I remember when I was watching this one time on. It was VHS. That's when it was. It was back further time when I was watching on VHS. And out of all things, my grandmother came over to visit. My mom's there. But my mom's there, of course, and some of the other family, and watching part 4 in the front room. And she actually sat down to watch, and she's not into these kind of horror movies. But as she's watching it further and further, starting to know of Jason, the part where Sam, when she was swimming out to that raft, my grandma out of nowhere said, "He's gonna get you, honey." And I remember just dying when she said, I was like, where did that come from? Like, she just knows Jason's gonna be out there. And then, of course, bam, Jason does that, crazy kill through the raft. But that's what a weird memory to have with your grandma. But her saying, "He's gonna kill you, honey." I was like, oh my God. That was classic. That was the only time she spoke in the whole movie, was that part. That's weird. Like I said, doing all this talking, it makes you start thinking of all these crazy memories. But I have too many connections. Like I said, beyond my parents, now I have a memory of my grandma. So isn't that crazy to have that connection with Friday the 13th?
No, I mean, that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure the more movies we keep discussing, we're going to find that we have a lot of connections with, like Nathan's dad, doing stuff to him and stuff like that. I mean, we're all going to have certain stories tied to certain movies, especially as we hit adolescence. And stuff like that. Certain movies are going to strike a chord with us, or as youngsters, certain action movies, certain horror movies, certain comedies, and we're going to have stories from our parents and friends and stuff like that. So, but that's what makes them so much more memorable. Is that all these movies and TV shows we talk about, we got a lot of great. It's makes the whole experience of rewatching so many of these films because you remember, being caught watching this naked scene. Your dad walks in, you're like, what is this? Or or
thinking you're watching porn or something. It's like, no, it's just a horror movie. About a whole thing.
Or being, you're watching Van Damme cuss, and somehow, your parents have a problem with that, but you had no problem with me watching Predator and watching spinal cords being torn out. So, that's what makes it so fun, is to share stories about, growing up and watching films of the 80s and early 90s, when everything was rated R. All the good stuff was rated R.
Oh yeah.
You know, and how you got away with seeing it, or what your parents thought about it. Did you get yelled at for watching something you had no control over? And you know, I look forward to sharing and hearing all these stories, because that's what makes, you know, everybody who talks about this stuff and listens to this podcast has been there at some point in their life with their mom, their dad, uncles, aunts, grandparents, whatever. You know,
But like I said, that is what's fun about this, because then all these memories come out that some you just maybe haven't thought for years, and it makes other people think of memories they had. So that's what's cool about doing the podcast. Memories for us, and then memories for people out there to start thinking, hey, I forgot about this. And real quick, I wanted to say in the chat room again, Grim Dagon said, he said, for your information, he said, there is a Part 5 reunion happening in Columbus, Ohio in November. He said it's called Horror Hound Weekend. And then he said, Joe,
There you go, Joe.
yeah, he said, Joe, check out Horror Hound Weekend. He says there's one in Cincinnati and one in Indy every year. He says this one in Columbus is kind of a once in a while thing. So I appreciate that, Grim. That is something I could probably try to do. At least that's not beyond my means. So, especially all 5, I didn't know that. If there's links or something, maybe he'll have to let us know about that later. But I'm going to look now and see about this Part 5 reunion. That's kind of cool, which is, I know it's not Tyler, it's not one of your favorites, but Part 5, like I said, I'd say watch it again, and then Part 6, you know.
well, I'd say watch Part 8 again. That's what I'd have to say to you.
Well, you know, it's funny. That's weird. I know I ranked it low, but it does have some.
Yeah,
cool
you
parts.
did.
Yeah, I did. I ranked it low. I love Kane Hodder. He's my favorite Jason, but that one in the series was one of the low ones. But I did love moments. I mean, I remember when Julius was on the rooftop. I love that he was, you know, getting the best of Jason, but Jason's just suckering him in. I like how he was going back, and then he's acting like he's getting affected by the punches. And then right when he gets towards the edge and those punches were coming, Jason's head barely even moved. And then Julia said, take your best shot, mother. And then Jason just grabbed one, bam, and there went the head. That was, of course, probably the most iconic of that. Just the ending part with him in the sewers and becoming a boy. Oh, dear God, I hate that part. But that will be for another episode.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, that stuff doesn't bother me. Plus, it had a lot of hot girls in that movie too.
I did. I had Kelly Hu.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah, Kelly Hu was in it, and the leading girl. I mean, she's an absolute knockout right now. I mean, she's even prettier now than she was back then. And then
one who played Rennie.
Yeah, Rennie, and then you got the prom queen. Gosh, I'm drawing blanks on so many of these characters all of a sudden.
I'll be honest.
All the time, I'm like, oh, character names. Oh man,
yeah.
No.
And I just watched Jason Takes Manhattan about 2 weeks ago, and that's one of them that I watched the most of the series.
You know what's funny? Sometimes when there's a character I dislike so much, I forgot. And she's one of them. I remember I wanted her to die. She was hot, and you got to see a quick, side boob of her in the shower, even though it might have been another actress. I don't know whose boob they showed, but I remember I wanted her to die.
But I hate that when we're sitting here talking about this stuff. People listen to this. I get mad at people on a podcast who can't remember anything. They don't remember the guys who played that character, or they don't remember the names of the characters. And it drives me nuts. I'm like, I like to think that we can,
And it was Nick. Just to let you know, I was holding Nick for you. Nick is the one that was, the one that Tina liked from Part 7 when you were trying to figure out his name.
Oh, yes. What, you were holding on to that and just told me now?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Why?
I don't know. Sorry.
You were doing it to spite me. Well, I'm glad I called you out on your lack of reading skills for the Crystal Lake Memories book.
I can't read. I only look at pretty
It's probably
pictures.
just sitting in your bathroom collecting dust right now.
No, it's in my room with all my Jason stuff. I'll have to screen cap it later and show it to everybody.
Be sure that you do.
All right, because I really do have it. But okay, well, I think that was a great episode. I mean, there was plenty of things we covered. It's been a great Friday the 13th, and for people out there, if you like Jason Goes to Hell and Freddy vs. Jason and Jason X,
then don't watch them.
No, I think it's sci-fi. So go to sci. I might be wrong though, but some channel right now is going to run all 3 of them. I wished it would be the earlier ones, but they're probably saving that for Fear Fest for the week on AMC, which used to be weeks, used to be a month, and now it's 1 week.
Now it's called, hey, can't wait for Walking Dead.
Yeah, Walking Dead is kicking everything out of the way, so now you're just down to 1 week of AMC Fear Fest. So that's all we get. So, well, like I said before we wrap it up, Nathan, what you got before we wrap it up, and then we'll pass it to Tyler.
To anyone that hasn't watched Part 4, please check it out. As we've said, effects are great. The characters are awesome compared to the other ones. Super relatable. man, Doublemint twins, yeah, whatever.
Hey, you're bringing them up more than I have this time. So I'm telling you, I think they left a bigger impression on you. You want to believe.
Which was the worst for you, Nathan? The Doublemint twins or the girl eating the banana that gets it? He might take the girl with the banana, Tyler. At least she might. Well,
he'll do it just to spite me. That's what he'll do. That's the only reason he'll take the girl with the banana.
No, I'll go with the Doublemint twins.
There we go.
The banana girl seemed very aggressive and
very quickly aggressive.
But yeah, part 4, just pacing all around. It's one that I think a lot of people, like we said, we all are in agreement on that one. Tyler, watch part 5. Go ahead and give that another watch. I know it's not the best in the series, but I feel like anyone should watch that at least one time, and maybe once again after a while to see how you feel.
I'd be more inclined to rewatch that one than Jason Goes to Hell and Jason X. I have no desire to see those films again.
Part 5 can really grow on you. Part 5.
Like I said, if I was going to go back and I mean, not that I'm completely opposed to rewatching Part 5 and 6. I just remember they left the least impression on me. But I own all of them, so I wouldn't mind going back and trying Part 5 again.
Okay.
And 6.
Okay, yeah, and 6 is great. But, and just wanted to say hello, JSP. He said he tuned in just to watch the end of the show, and he's laughing. I was like, yeah, better late than never. So, well, you're here, and now you have to...
Well, now he's got to go back and check out the rest of the show. So when you do, let us know what you think there, bud.
Exactly. And next week, we'll continue Horror Month. And what do you think we're gonna hit on Nightmare on Elm Street, or you want to hit Chucky? Because we're saving Halloween for Halloween, but... what do you want to prepare the listeners for next week? Nightmare on Elm Street or Child's Play?
You mean Nightmare on Elm Street as a series or just...
Well, I think one is pretty much just damn the best of the bunch, at least in my opinion, the original Nightmare on Elm Street. Maybe we just might as well just hit that one. I think that'd be a great one to cover, unless you want to cover anything else. I mean, Nathan, you want
Wait, we've already did Nightmare on Elm Street.
Holy Jesus, we did. Oh my God!
What the hell are you doing here?
See, when you get old like Joe, you completely forget. So now, all right, let's pass Nightmare on Elm Street. Forget that. We're gonna have to hit. We'll do Child's Play.
I could almost, I say we could do Child's Play, and I would love to hear you guys' thoughts on something like Monster Squad, or
that's a good movie.
Or Pumpkinhead, or the best of the John Carpenter horror movies. I mean, obviously building up to Halloween, of course, but I mean, there's a bunch of stuff. But yeah, Child's Play, like 1, 2, and 3. I'd love to talk about that with you guys, like the series as a whole, and then maybe discussing like a particular other horror movie of one of those. Hell, we could just do we could just do all Child's Play. I mean, hell, I don't care. I'm just doing a variety of things here.
I mean, Child's Play would work for me because I actually just recently watched Curse of Chucky and Cult of Chucky, so I can give you guys my thoughts on the newer 2 of the Child's Play franchise.
All right, perfect. All right, well then that's what we'll do. And again, everybody, apologize for my senior moment. Remember, I'm the oldest one here, so my mind it goes like that.
Well, I thought you were also saying you want to discuss the Nightmare series as a whole. Which
I had a moment. It's just like when Nathan was saying, and you say, Tyler has the steel trap. For mine, I have the rusted box. It goes quickly. So I had a moment.
Well, I'm getting there. I'm right there with you.
Well, I hope you don't get as bad as me. But so next week we'll do Child's Play in general. But okay, well.
Wait, let me ask you something.
What's that?
This awesome horror franchise.
Did you hear what he said?
I don't know. Doug's voice is breaking up an awful lot during that.
Oh, can you not hear me? Hello?
It's still breaking up.
Could you, for the fun of it, just say, "Can you hear me now?" Could you just do that?
No, I hate Verizon commercials and the Sprint commercials too. I hate phone commercials in general. I'm not condoning that kind of nonsense on this podcast.
He likes the Doublemint commercials.
Those are better. Those are better.
Well, I don't know if Doug's trying to talk now. If he is,
Exorcist. Exorcist. That's what he's trying to say.
Oh, was he? Okay. Yeah. Like I said, there's still plenty of things.
I mean, The Exorcist. Now, I will say The Exorcist is still, to this day, a movie that still scares the piss out of me. Like, I remember when me and Nathan went to go see a screening over in Christiansburg. There's certain scenes in it because it was the director's cut, so it had like the spider crawl and all that stuff too. I'm like, There's some unnerving scenes in that movie still to this day, man. I mean, I hold it up there with Nightmare on Elm Street. I don't have the childhood trauma, but I mean, it still scares the piss out of me, dude. I mean, that first Exorcist. Oh my god, I haven't seen the sequels. I never saw the Heretic. My dad saw Part 3 and said it was really good, and I never did. I never cared to see the beginning because I just all the train wreck that movie went through and production and everything. I was like, nah, I don't care to see
Well, it's
that.
another deserved one. There's plenty of them. So, but all right, guys. Well, that wraps it up, and I hope you guys all enjoyed listening to this episode, our special Friday the 13th episode. And you can tune in next week. We'll do our Child's Play coverage. And so, if you want to go to two places, you can go to popculturenetwork.com, and of course, go to Beyond Retro on Facebook. So, until next week, have a happy Friday the 13th.
See you guys.
God, I'm horny.